like a ghost through the dark corridors of Aguiman Senior High School, her bucket and mop in hand. At just 16, she had become a night cleaner, an invisible presence keeping the school spotless while others slept. Her tattered shoes made little sound as she entered classroom 2B, her favorite, because it held memories of her brief time as a student before she dropped out due to fees. She took a moment to run her hand across the wooden desk she once claimed as hers. She swept with purpose, knowing she had only 4 hours before the school reopened. Her mother was sick, her younger brother too young to work, and the small cleaning job was their only lifeline. Despite everything, Amma never let herself cry. Every night she reminded herself, one day she would return to these classrooms as a student, not a cleaner. Kwabena Osei arrived at school every day in a shiny black SUV, escorted by his family's chauffeur. His father owned Osei Holdings, one of Ghana's largest construction firms. He was the golden boy, handsome, brilliant, and untouchable. Every teacher adored him, every girl swooned, and every boy envied him. Yet Kwabena always felt strangely out of place, as though the perfection around him was a performance he was tired of acting in. That night, he forgot his flash drive in the computer lab and returned to school with his driver. As he stepped inside, the eerie quiet of the corridors greeted him. That's when he saw her, a girl in worn clothes, sweeping the very floor he walked on. Their eyes met briefly before she looked down, trying to disappear. Kwabena blinked, uncertain if she was a ghost or real. But something about her posture, humble yet proud, haunted him. Kwabena couldn't sleep that night. The girl's image lingered in his mind, especially her eyes, wary yet strong. He didn't recognize her from any of the classes, which puzzled him. The next day, he tried to ask around casually, but no one seemed to know of a girl who worked at night. It was as if she was a secret the school itself kept hidden. Driven by curiosity, Kwabena returned the next evening, pretending he forgot something again. This time, he waited silently near the computer lab until he heard soft footsteps and the swish of a mop. When she entered the room, he stepped out of the shadows. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She looked startled, but didn't run. "Amma," she replied softly. "Amma Mensa." Amma was unsure how to feel about the boy with perfect shoes and a perfect life, asking about her name. But Kwabena didn't treat her like a cleaner. He asked her how long she had been doing the job and why. Hesitant at first, Amma eventually opened up about her sick mother and her dreams of returning to school. Her voice carried no bitterness, only quiet determination. Kwabena listened, his usual confidence stripped away by her honesty. Something stirred in him, a strange mix of admiration and guilt. He realized how little he understood the world beyond his gated community. Amma, who had so little, somehow held a strength he had never known. Over the next week, Kwabena kept returning after school hours. They spoke more each night, sitting on benches while Amma took her short cleaning breaks. It became their ritual. Amma was cautious. She didn't want pity, but Kwabena's sincerity was undeniable. Then, one evening, he made a bold proposal. "I want to pay your fees," he said. "Not as charity. Think of it as an investment in someone who deserves more." Amma was stunned. Her pride warred with her need. But when she saw the look in his eyes, earnest and respectful, she whispered, "Okay." Amma's return to class caused a ripple of whispers. Some students remembered her from the year before. Others didn't know what to make of the girl with secondhand books and 2 old shoes. But Amma kept her head high, her focus sharp. She sat quietly at the front and answered questions no one else dared to. Kwabena watched from across the room, secretly proud. He hadn't told anyone about his role in her return, and Amma insisted they keep it that way. She wanted to earn every grade herself, and Kwabena respected that deeply. Still, their eyes met often, communicating silent encouragement. Not everyone was pleased with Amma's comeback. Sandra, the reigning queen bee of the school, noticed Kwabena's subtle attention toward Amma. Her curiosity turned to jealousy. She started spreading rumors, whispering that Amma must be doing something inappropriate to earn her way back in. Amma heard the whispers, but she didn't let them slow her down. Kwabena, however, was furious. He wanted to confront Sandra, but Amma asked him not to. "Let my results speak," she said with quiet defiance. Kwabena nodded. He admired her strength more than ever. Midterms approached. Amma studied harder than ever, balancing her classes with her night shifts. Kwabena started sneaking her snacks and extra notes, helping her revise during breaks. They never labeled their friendship, but it deepened with every shared glance and laugh. The day of the exams, Amma entered the hall with trembling hands, but a steady heart. She poured her soul into each answer. Weeks later, when the results came out, her name was at the top of the list, above even Kwabena's. The whispers stopped. The respect started. Sandra's bitterness grew. Not only had Amma topped the class, but now Kwabena openly praised her in class discussions. One afternoon, Sandra confronted Amma by the lockers. "You think you're better than us now? Because some rich boy likes your sad little story?" Amma didn't flinch. "I don't need anyone to like my story. I'm writing it myself," she replied. Kwabena, who overheard it all from around the corner, felt something solidify in his heart. This wasn't just admiration anymore. He was falling, deeply. It rained heavily that Friday. Classes were dismissed early. Amma waited under the school's front porch, watching students with umbrellas and cars leave. She had no umbrella. Her brother had the only one back home. Kwabena appeared beside her, holding out his own. "Let's walk," he said. She hesitated, but joined him. As the rain soaked them both, they laughed like children. It was the first time in months Amma felt light, free, happy. That afternoon, under the gray sky, their bond shifted from quiet friendship to something unspoken and tender. Amma didn't come to school, or the day after. Worried, Kwabena went looking. He found her in a small compound house, seated beside her mother's hospital bed. Their eyes met, hers filled with tears. Her mother's health had worsened. Kwabena sat beside her in silence. He didn't promise miracles. He just held her hand, reminding her she wasn't alone. In that moment, Amma realized that the golden boy wasn't just her sponsor or friend. He had become her safe place. Amma spent long nights by her mother's side, balancing worry with hope. Memories of her father's death years ago haunted her anew. Her mother's weak breathing reminded her just how fragile life could be. She thought about quitting school again to care for her family. When she told Kwabena, he took a deep breath. "Let me help you carry this burden," he said. "You don't have to stop living to save everyone." Amma didn't answer right away, but deep down, she knew he was right. Her dreams were part of the healing too. Kwabena's mother found out about his secret trips and demanded an explanation. He told her everything. To his surprise, she didn't explode. Instead, she sat quietly and asked, "Is she good for your soul?" He nodded. "Then help her well, but help her with honor." Inspired, Kwabena wrote a heartfelt letter to Amma's mother, promising to support Amma's dreams no matter what. He brought flowers and food. When Amma's mother read the letter, tears rolled down her cheeks. "You have a good friend, Amma," she whispered. "Don't lose him." Amma's mother began to recover slowly. With that weight easing, Amma threw herself back into schoolwork. Her classmates now looked at her differently, not with pity, but with awe. Even teachers began to ask her opinion during lessons. Kwabena watched her shine. They still met secretly, away from gossiping eyes, sharing laughter and stories. Their moments were soft, never rushed. For the first time, Amma felt what it was like to be seen not as a burden, but as someone worthy of love. Kwabena's father found out about Amma, and he was furious. "We didn't send you to school to sponsor poor girls," he thundered. He threatened to cut off Kwabena's allowance. Kwabena stood firm. "Then I'll earn my own money," he declared. That weekend, Kwabena began tutoring younger students for a fee. He even sold some of his old gadgets online. Amma was touched by his sacrifices, but she also worried. Was she pulling him into a world too heavy for him? One morning, Amma received a brown envelope with no name. Inside was a scholarship certificate, full tuition, books, and uniform included. Her hands shook as she read it. She had never applied for one, so how did this happen? Kwabena smiled when she told him, "Let's just say someone believed in your light enough to give it wings." Amma hugged him tightly for the first time. It was more than a gesture. It was a promise unspoken. As Amma and Kwabena grew closer, the school buzzed louder. Jealousy turned cruel. A fake photo circulated of Amma with money in hand, accused of selling herself for favors. Amma was devastated. Her integrity had always been her pride. Kwabena confronted the student who started it and demanded a public apology. The school's disciplinary committee stepped in. Amma was cleared, but the emotional toll left a scar. Kwabena held her hand through it all. "Let them talk," he said. "We know our truth." Amma joined the school debate team, encouraged by Kwabena. The topic, education is the key to breaking poverty. Amma's speech brought the auditorium to its feet. She spoke not as a victim, but as proof of the power of dreams. They won the trophy, and her photo was placed on the school's honors board. When she returned home that day, her mother cried, "You're doing it, Amma. You're rising." And Amma, for the first time, believed she could fly. The school organized a cultural night. Amma didn't plan to attend. She had no dress, no shoes, but that evening, a box appeared on her doorstep. Inside was a beautiful Ankara gown and matching flats. No note. But she knew who it was. At the event, everyone turned to stare. Amma was glowing. Kwabena offered his hand, and they danced under fairy lights. For that one night, there were no class differences, just music, moonlight, and magic. As the final term approached, university applications loomed. Amma hesitated. What if her past still held her back? Kwabena sat beside her under their favorite tree. "Apply," he said. "You belong in those lecture halls." She smiled. With trembling fingers, she filled out the forms. She listed her story truthfully. It wasn't shameful. It was powerful. Amma was no longer afraid. She was ready for whatever the future held. Amma was invited to a prestigious interview at the University of Ghana. She was nervous, but determined. Kwabena accompanied her to the city, staying outside the hall while she faced a panel of 5 stern-looking professors. They asked about her background, her challenges, her motivation. Amma answered with grace. She spoke from the heart, about cleaning classrooms in the dark and returning to those same classrooms as a top student. By the end of it, one of the professors leaned forward and said, "You are the kind of story we need to write more of." She walked out smiling, and straight into Kwabena's proud arms. News of Amma and Kwabena's closeness finally reached Sandra's parents, who in turn informed Kwabena's father. Enraged, he called an emergency meeting with the school board, claiming Amma was a distraction to his son and damaging the school's reputation. Amma was summoned to the principal's office and interrogated, but she held her ground, refusing to cry. The principal, who had watched her transformation, stood up for her. "We do not punish excellence here," he declared. The attempt to disgrace her only made her stronger, and Kwabena's father angrier. Kwabena's father gave him a cruel ultimatum: leave Amma or lose all family privileges, including university tuition. Kwabena didn't flinch. He walked out of his father's house that very night with a suitcase and 2 books, one of them gifted by Amma. He moved into a friend's small apartment and began tutoring full-time to support himself. Amma was heartbroken that he had to sacrifice so much, but he reassured her, "You gave me purpose. I gave up comfort, not meaning." Their love was no longer a secret. It had become a fight for freedom. Amma's story was picked up by a local journalist who had attended the university interview. Her interview was aired on a youth radio station under the segment Rising from the Dust. It went viral overnight. Calls came in from people inspired by her courage. A scholarship foundation reached out. They not only offered her full university funding, but also financial aid for her mother's medical care. Amma was stunned. She and Kwabena celebrated with a quiet meal of jollof rice under a mango tree. "You deserve the world," he whispered. The last exam of senior year arrived. Amma sat in the hall with calm resolve. Everything she had endured, the night shifts, the mockery, the near expulsions, led to this moment. She wrote like her future depended on it, because it did. Kwabena, sitting across from her, stole a glance and smiled. They didn't need to speak. The air between them was thick with dreams. When the bell rang and the papers were collected, it felt like a door had finally closed, and a new one opened. The school compound was packed. Students clung to each other, eyes scanning the board. Amma held her breath. Then she saw it. Amma Mensa, first position, aggregate 6. The crowd turned toward her in awe. She had become a legend. Kwabena ran to her, lifted her in his arms as cheers erupted. For a moment, they were not rich or poor, cleaner or scholar. Just 2 hearts that had survived the storm. At graduation, Amma was chosen to give the farewell address. She stood at the podium, the school crest shining behind her. Her voice didn't tremble. "Many said I didn't belong here, but dreams do not belong to the rich alone. They belong to the brave." The auditorium rose to its feet. Kwabena watched, eyes glassy. His golden girl had become gold herself. Sandra clapped slowly from the back, her own pride softening into respect. Kwabena was offered a partial scholarship to study abroad, based on his academic record and his tutoring project, but he hesitated. Amma urged him to go. "We'll still write our story, just across pages and oceans." He finally agreed, and they spent their last days together like borrowed time, laughing, planning, promising. On the day he left, he gave her a necklace. "When we meet again, I'll put the key on this chain," he said. "To our house, our life." University was a different world. Amma struggled at first. The courses were hard, the city overwhelming, but she reminded herself she belonged. She joined study groups, volunteered at literacy drives, and stayed in touch with Kwabena every week. One day, her story was printed in the university magazine. A senior lecturer offered her a research assistant position. Slowly, Amma found her footing. She didn't just survive, she thrived. Kwabena sent her long letters from London. They were filled with stories of snow, strange food, and homesickness. Amma replied with tales of campus life, her brother's jokes, and their old mango tree. Though thousands of miles apart, their love deepened. They were no longer just 2 students. They were symbols of resilience. The world was watching, but they were still writing their own quiet, powerful story. The days after the confrontation felt hollow. Kwabena had withdrawn from Amma, not out of anger, but confusion. He couldn't reconcile the girl he had admired for her strength and quiet dignity with the secret life she had been hiding. He knew it wasn't betrayal, but he needed time to process the truth. Amma, on the other hand, felt exposed. Her secret had always been her shield, and now that it was gone, so was her sense of safety. At school, students were divided. Some admired her courage, while others, led by Ya, continued to whisper. The silence between Kwabena and Amma grew heavier with each passing day. She focused on her studies more fiercely than ever, determined not to let anyone see her crumble. But each time she saw Kwabena from a distance, her heart ached with the weight of what was left unsaid. As Amma sat alone in the library, she felt a shadow fall over her. It was Kwabena. His face was unreadable, but his voice was soft. "Amma, I should have come to you sooner." She looked up, uncertain. He sat across from her. "I wasn't upset about your secret. I was upset that you felt you had to hide it from me." Tears welled in Amma's eyes. "I didn't want your pity," she whispered. "I didn't want to be a charity case." Kwabena shook his head. "You're not. You're the strongest person I know." In that quiet corner, surrounded by dusty books and sunbeams, they found their way back to each other, not as student and benefactor, but as equals learning to love. After the apology, things didn't magically return to how they were. Amma and Kwabena took their time. They spent more hours talking about their fears, their dreams, and the world they each came from. Amma told him about her mother, about scrubbing floors to afford uniforms. Kwabena, in turn, revealed his own pressures, the expectations of his wealthy family, the loneliness masked by luxury. They learned to navigate their worlds together. Kwabena began helping Amma study for her final exams, not as a tutor, but as a partner. They challenged each other, laughed more freely, and even argued with honesty. The bond that had started in secret was now growing in daylight, and with each shared moment, their trust deepened. Ya couldn't stand seeing Amma rise. Every time she saw Kwabena smiling at Amma, every time a teacher praised her in class, it fueled her resentment. She decided to strike one last time, this time publicly. During a school assembly, she raised her hand to ask a question and slyly hinted that certain students were getting special favors because of sob stories. The room grew quiet. Everyone knew who she meant. But this time Amma stood up. Calmly, she addressed the crowd. "I worked to be here. I studied harder than most, and I will not apologize for surviving." There was silence, then applause. Even the teachers nodded in approval. Ya, for the first time, was left speechless and defeated. Kwabena's father, Mr. Mensah, had always wondered where his son disappeared to after school. One day, he followed him and discovered Kwabena at Amma's humble home, helping her carry groceries and talking with her mother like family. Furious, he confronted his son. "You're risking everything for a girl from the slums?" Kwabena didn't back down. "I'm investing in someone who deserves it. Amma is more than where she comes from." His father scoffed, but something in Kwabena's tone silenced him. It was the voice of a boy becoming a man. Though the elder Mensah didn't approve, he realized his son wasn't easily swayed, and that Amma might not be as insignificant as he once assumed. Amma applied for a national scholarship that promised a full ride to university. The competition was fierce, but she poured her soul into the application, her grades, her story, her goals to uplift her community. Kwabena helped her practice for the interview, and even the principal wrote her a glowing recommendation. Weeks later, the results were posted. Amma stared at the screen, her hands trembling. Then she saw it. Her name. She had won. Overwhelmed, she cried openly, surrounded by classmates who had once ignored her. Kwabena lifted her into a joyful spin. "You did it, Amma," he shouted. She had never felt so seen, so validated, so free. Winning the scholarship changed everything. Amma was now a symbol of hope, not just for the school, but for the neighborhood she came from. Her story spread across local news and social media. People admired her determination. Invitations for interviews came in, and Amma, though nervous, spoke confidently. But with the fame came pressure. Expectations rose. Every misstep was watched. Kwabena stayed by her side, grounding her. He reminded her that she was still the same Amma who had studied by candlelight, who had dared to dream beyond her means. Together, they prepared for university life, ready to take on the next chapter. The school threw a farewell party for the graduating class. For Amma, it was a full-circle moment. She wore a simple yet elegant dress, bought with her first scholarship stipend. Her classmates applauded her as she walked onto the stage to receive her award for academic excellence. Kwabena, dressed in traditional kente, gave a speech that brought the room to tears. Amma didn't just clean our classrooms, she cleaned our hearts of judgment. He looked at her with pride and love. That night, under fairy lights and music, Amma danced with him, not as a secret, but as a shining star. Amma's mother watched her daughter prepare for university with quiet pride. She remembered the sleepless nights, the hunger, the pain. Now, Amma stood tall, hopeful, and full of purpose. "You've made me proud, my child," she whispered one evening. Amma hugged her tightly. "Everything I've done, Mama, was for you. But now, I'll do it for others too." Her mother nodded, tears in her eyes. For once, the future didn't seem like a burden. It felt like a promise. The morning Amma left for university, the entire neighborhood came out to send her off. Children waved, neighbors cheered, and her mother held her hand tightly. Kwabena was there, his car loaded with her things. They shared one last look at the place where it all began. As the car drove off, Amma looked out the window, her heart full. She had found love, not just in Kwabena, but in herself, in her journey, in the struggle that shaped her. The road ahead was long, but she was ready. Her story, once hidden behind blackboards, was now just beginning to shine. The school buzzed with whispers after the secret of Amina's night job was revealed. Some students mocked her, but others were awestruck by her courage. Kwame stood tall by her side, unbothered by the murmurs, but inside, he battled a storm. His wealthy friends had started distancing themselves, and his family's disapproval was growing louder. Yet none of that mattered when he looked into Amina's determined eyes. Amina, too, struggled. Cleaning became harder with judgmental eyes following her even in daylight. Yet, she held her head high. Each time she felt like breaking, she reminded herself of why she started. Kwame was her unexpected strength, his unwavering support giving her hope she had never known. But both knew this peace was only temporary. Kwame's father summoned him one evening. The office reeked of power and judgment. "End it," his father said simply. "She's not your equal. This will ruin your future." But Kwame stood firm. "I love her," he replied, "and she's stronger than anyone I know." The room fell silent. That night, Kwame packed a few things and walked out. It was the beginning of a new chapter, away from wealth, but closer to purpose. Kwame moved in with a friend and took a part-time job. For the first time, he experienced life without luxury. Amina helped him adapt, and in those humble moments, their bond deepened. They studied together, worked together, and dreamed together. The school, watching from the sidelines, started to admire their story. What was once gossip turned into admiration. The girl with the broom and the boy from the mansion had become symbols of courage and love. Inspired by their journey, Amina started a student support club. She began mentoring juniors who were struggling with finances or bullying. Her story became a beacon for others. Teachers took notice. She was invited to speak at assemblies. Kwame used his influence to get the school to start a scholarship fund for underprivileged students. His act shocked many, but earned respect. Together, they were building more than a love story. They were building a legacy. The scholarship fund was named the Amina Hope Initiative. During the launch ceremony, Amina was asked to speak. Her hands trembled as she stood before the entire school, but her voice was steady. "I once cleaned these classrooms when no one was watching. Today, I stand here because someone believed in me. Let us all believe in each other." The auditorium erupted in applause. Even her former bullies stood to clap. A national education magazine got wind of their story and requested an interview. Amina was hesitant, but Kwame encouraged her. "The world needs your story," he said. The article titled "The Girl Who Cleaned Classrooms and Changed Lives" went viral. Messages of support poured in. Offers for sponsorship, scholarships, and even university placements started coming. But Amina and Kwame remained grounded. Dressed in robes stitched with sweat and tears, Amina stood on the stage as valedictorian. Kwame, right beside her, had earned top marks too. The crowd gave a standing ovation as she delivered her speech, this time not with trembling hands, but with a powerful presence. She thanked her teachers, her classmates, and most importantly, the boy who saw her when the world chose to look away. To everyone who ever felt invisible, you are enough. Kwame's father, sitting silently in the back, had come alone. His pride was silent but visible. After the ceremony, he approached Amina. "You've made a man out of my son, and a believer out of me." Tears welled in Amina's eyes. That moment wasn't just a personal victory, it was proof that hearts could change. With their high school days behind them, they both received university offers. Amina for education, Kwame for public policy. They promised to stay together, not just in love, but in purpose. Their dream was to build more initiatives, empower more students, and show the world what love, dignity, and courage could do. Side by side, they walked into their next chapter. Under the stars, surrounded by friends, teachers, and family, they celebrated not just love, but a journey. Music played, laughter rang out, and candles lit up the night. Amina and Kwame stood hand in hand, hearts full of gratitude. Their story, born in silence and shadows, had become a tale for generations to come. a story of blackboards, brooms, and the beauty of belief.